Excellencies, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, it is an honor to be one of the participants in this distinguished gathering. I am pleased to be part of a meeting dedicated to the search for new solutions to the problems and potentials of the mountains and mountain peoples. Looking back over the events of the last decade yields several lessons. One of the most important is that the global community cannot continue to ignore the problems that have been building in most mountain areas of the world. It is most fitting that this summit, the culminating event of the United Nations Year of the Mountains, should be held here in Bishkek. The Kyrgyz Republic is a mountainous country located in a region dominated by some of the world's mightiest mountain ranges. Dealing with the problems is particularly difficult for developing countries where resources for investment are always insufficient and subject to intense competition from many sides, often from other worthwhile and pressing needs. These problems have been especially acute here in Central Asia over the last decades. Most of the countries that were formerly part of the Soviet Union have experienced rapid and severe stagnation as their economies were cut off from the highly centralized Soviet economic system. The effects of this change were magnified in mountain areas. Few were self-sufficient in basic foodstuffs, and their industries and mines, already inefficient, were cut off from their markets. Even educational and health services, which had been accessible and good, collapsed because they had been dependent on high subsidies. It is easier to improve agricultural production and thereby income and nutritional levels than it is to create agriculture-related and non-agricultural jobs in rural areas. Improving access to the quality of health and educational services is essential. They support the diversification of the local economy and equip those looking for work outside the mountains on a seasonal or long-term basis to be considered for new forms of employment. In many areas, it is also possible to revitalize or strengthen cultural assets, be they buildings, musical forms, or crafts, as potential attractions or products for those tourists interested in mountains and mountain cultures. The point was made in the opening plenary that mountain areas have the highest level of biodiversity of any ecological zone. It is equally true that mountains have more cultural diversity than any other physical setting. This is a great source of strength and an asset and should be supported as such. Finally, it is clear that improved livelihoods and functional communities are much more attractive to mountain people than armed conflict or criminal activities, including drugs. This requires field-based knowledge and capacity, as well as the means to mobilize the best science that is relevant wherever it can be found. It will require the ability to undertake highly specialized research, as well as the delivery capacity to bring that research to the field in a form that can be utilized in field conditions. In Central Asia, there are problems and unrealized potentials that can only be addressed by involving two or more countries or working on a truly regional basis. At what stage does the compound impact of community-based projects over a wide area and an extended period of time accumulate into the need for macroeconomic changes. In our high mountain situations, this equates with new regional dimensions. Even when demonstrably successful community-based projects seem to reach a development stage at which they no longer produce continuing increments in returns, it would appear that when that point is attained, much wider forces of change have to be brought into play, such as mobilizing new economic drivers and diversifying the economy at the macro level. New areas and scales of enterprise in fields such as commerce, agro-industry, the leisure industry, and others must be developed. There are new needs for regional institutions, such as universities, enterprise support agencies, microcredit banks, and the like. Improved communications, better roads, and appropriate customs and border regimes take on a new urgency. They, in turn, must seek out new levels of funding and diplomatic support that only large international funding agencies can offer. Much remains to be done to stabilize mountain communities and improve the options and therefore the future for mountain peoples. It will take the best efforts of all of us to make a difference for them. Thank you.